In this video, I'm going to talk about the core principles of sexual energy. The first one being transformation. Whatever we want to achieve in life can be achieved if we channel our mind and focus our heart towards our desired intentions. And I think that transformation comes when our beliefs are in alignment with our core values, and we can speak them through our heart, our mind, our soul, and our body. To align ourselves in every way with our core principles and our core values that we hold dear, then we can use our sexual energy in a transformative way. And the next core principle is authenticity, because you cannot really transform yourself into something that you're going to be super happy with if you're not really sure about what is authentic to you. And it takes time to discover what your true path is in life. But being a core principle of sexual energy, establishing a connection with your divine self in order to achieve a meaningful life and existence. And the third core principle of sexual energy is divine connection. Because energy comes from the divine. You know, energy is an outpouring of God. And so sexual energy taps us into that higher power, because it's the power of creativity, and it has a deep connection to our spirituality. And this is why, many cultures in the world talk about using your sexual energy creatively to achieve goals, because it is sort of a powerful energy that we all have. But the basic principles of sexual energy, I think, is that we can transform our life into whatever we want it to be. And if we use our sexual energy wisely, then we can channel that energy towards creative and positive means. But in order to do that, we have to discover who we are and our core values and our core principles and the things that we truly hold dear to our heart. And that way you can put your entire life into a few sets of principles that you know is going to yield success for you. And it does take time to discover who we are in life and the things that resonate with us and the things that we enjoy. But you should believe in yourself, because you are all special people, and everyone has something that makes them special and unique. And I think that even if you're someone who feels bad about yourself, like maybe you're too ugly or old or out of shape or poor or whatever your case may be, that you may deem yourself to be unlovable and unworthy, or just hopeless or a lost case. Maybe too much years of porn addiction, or I don't really know what your case may be. But basically, it's never too late to change your life. And, I mean, even if you are in a situation where you feel like you've already missed out on your best days in life and you don't really have much hope or point for going on, well, there is always a good reason to make your day better and your life better. Maybe to be a better inspiration for others, or to enjoy your life. I mean, even if you're old, it's better to enjoy your life than not, even if you only have a small time left. And a lot of you people listening to this, you're not 70 or anything. Maybe you're just 40 or 50 even, or even in your 20s and 30s. And you just feel well, you've wasted so much time with PMO, and, things didn't go the way you wanted them to go, and you just feel hopeless, like you've missed out on so much, and you just feel low self-esteem, and nothing is working, and nothing has been working, and you just feel stuck and miserable and hopeless. But not just your life is bad, but maybe you've given up. But life is really beautiful when you get your life together. And I want everyone to know that once you can sort of channel your sexual energy in a way that's going to uplift your life and uplift your spirit towards your goals in life, then it doesn't take very long for you to start having a happy life and a positive life. So even if you feel and think that you are miles behind everyone else and your life is really bad, well, if you can get to a point in life where you are making better use of your sexual energy, then it won't take that long for you to start being happy and hopeful and enjoying life again. Especially if you can figure out authenticity, because then you have a goal to aim for. You have something worth striving for. And then that's going to help you to channel this sexual energy into transformation, because sexual energy is not just about the energy of sex and sexuality and sexual relationships. Sexual energy is inseparable from energy itself. So everyone has energy inside of them. And that energy is part of what gives us life. It makes us human, and that's where our emotions come from. That's where our intelligence comes from. And if you study, various sort of, if you study information from various places, various places have different philosophies and ways of talking about it. In traditional Chinese medicine, they have one way of talking about it, and in Indian philosophy, they have another way of talking about it. But basically, my point is that your sex energy is connected to your spirituality, and it's connected to what makes you human, and it's connected to your life itself. So basically, having sort of a positive outlet for this energy is part of living a good life. And these are the core principles, the 3 core principles of sexual energy: transformation, authenticity, and divine connection. These are the 3 core principles of sexual energy. The core principle of transformation is that you can change one thing into another thing. You know, whatever your dream is, whatever your goal is, whatever your intention is, then you can use your spiritual energy to direct your life into those means, into that objective, and attain that goal. That's the first core principle of sexual energy, is that it's life force itself, and directing your life force is how you can transform your life, right? Because sexual energy, as I said, doesn't just have to do with sex and sexual pleasure and sexuality or sexual relationships, but rather sexual energy is life itself. It's part of life, and it has a big spiritual component to it, because it's like I'm saying, it's not just sexual energy, but really the sexual energy is merely one facet of a larger energy that makes you who you are. And sexuality is one way that it is expressed, but that energy itself is divine. And whether you want to believe in God or not, or divinity or not, it doesn't really matter, because the principle is that human beings are powerful creatures, and our energy is part of what makes us powerful. And even if you don't believe in God or divinity, then you can still understand that you can still believe in energy, right? So in order to manifest what you want in life, then you need to know who you are and your true path in life, right? Because if you're trying to live a life that doesn't align with your heart and your soul and your life or your mind, at the deepest level of who you are, and like what truly resonates with you, if you don't have that stuff figured out, then you're not gonna have the right things to direct that energy towards. You're going to be living a false life. You're going to be living a fake life, and you're going to be getting fake results. And that's a dilemma in itself, because people may ask, well, how can I figure out my highest path? How can I figure out the person that I'm meant to be? right? So that's a very interesting question. It's a very interesting question, and I think a lot of the stuff that holds us back in life is the opinions of others. Because most of us, we have a strong need to, or a strong desire to not be hated, to not be looked down upon. And I think this has to do with basically just the culture that we live in, because we don't live in a world that promotes positive acceptance for all beings. We live in a world where people are hated and judged and mistreated based on simple things like them just being themselves. Not only that, but it's a competitive world where that's just the kind of thing is like, because the world may not be in the best state right now, then a lot of people, they have childhood traumas and they may not feel totally confident with themselves starting from an early age. And that is a big factor, especially if, you grow up, you have like a lot of bad things in your life when you're young. You don't have like a super loving and positive life when you're a youngster, like a young child and a young kid in elementary school. Then, you're going to be sad and maybe even depressed, and that can contribute to low confidence as well. And so that's how a lot of people are growing up in life. And that combined with the culture and world that we live in, where it's very judgmental and everyone looks down upon certain people. There's a lot of phobias out there, and there's a lot of hatred and bigotry, and it's not really a safe world for people to just like openly be themselves, because there's so much judgment and hatred out there. And so like that's just the kind of world we live in. And so it affects people unconsciously. And like, around the time of middle school, when people first start like coming of age, so to speak, like you're transitioning from like a kid to a teenager. And there's a lot of social pressure to fit in. And so what happens a lot of times, if you don't have a very supportive environment that supports your growth and encourage you to be who you want to be, and like, encourage you that you can like, pursue your dreams, then like people may grow up in an environment where they don't believe in their dreams, and a lot of your life may have already passed by where you haven't been pursuing your dreams because of various reasons. But basically my point, not to waste too much time, my point is that it's societal pressure. It's like, because the world is not like super loving and kind, then it creates like sort of a collective consciousness where people that are different, especially extremely different, it's like you're looked down upon and ridiculed, especially depending on where you live, certain types of things that you might be interested in. So, people try to push away their true self, and they're too afraid to go for their dreams, and they're too afraid to be themselves. And so they're unable to discover their authentic self because they're too afraid. Everyone's hating them or putting them down, or maybe they just don't believe in themselves. They don't believe it's possible, right? They think, I could never do that. And, but the thing is that being your authentic self and finding joy in that it's a personal journey. And so you're always going to be happier in life if you're living in alignment with what makes you happy in life, with the person that you want to be and the life that you want to live, right? So that's part of it is, a lot of times it's pretty simple. Most people know who they want to be. But it does take time. It's a journey, and it does take time. But I think that, it is kind of obvious once you start figuring it out about who you are as a person. I think that if you can let go of fear, then it's going to be a lot easier to embrace who you truly are in life. And, desire is a part of sexual energy as well, right? It's that desire. That's a big part of sexual energy. And so, people are afraid to be themselves, and so they often reject their own desires. And this can also cause confusion in people. But it's also just a life journey as well, It takes years of learning in order to develop wisdom. So, I personally am 33 years of age, and I feel like I have only just recently discovered what truly makes me happy in life. Absolutely. As a person, how I express myself and the life that I live in terms of my own self, as well as also my own personal hobbies and the things that make me happy in life, right? And I also feel like, people just make up a lot of excuses about why they can't dedicate themselves to the things that they love, right? So, it takes time to discover who you truly want to be in life. And it does take time to discover your highest path in life, right? But at the same time, people also have sort of an all or nothing mindset where they feel like if they can't be perfect, then they're not going to try at all towards something. And that holds people back as well. So in the first place, you should accept yourself and love yourself for who you are. But the thing is, because people don't do that, people refuse to accept who they are. And so they create a false narrative of who they're supposed to be. And, again, this also takes years of experience and self-reflection as well. But I think the main point that I would bring up at this point is that people feel like, well, because I'm failing in these aspects of my life, then I'm not going to strive for this thing that I really want to do with my life. But I would say that it's not quite that black and white, and that even if you can't dedicate yourself perfectly towards one of your goals, then it's still going to be extremely, extremely, extremely useful to you if you just try your best in that area of your life, right? Because part of that transformation, speaking on the transformative power of sexual energy, part of that transformation is who you are and how you choose to live your life. So, even if you're not perfect and you're you're living a life that you think is not perfect, and so you kind of feel like maybe you're not going to try for your goals, or maybe you feel like there's no point in trying for your goals, right? Maybe you want this certain thing in life, and you tell yourself that when you get that thing, then you're going to change. Then you're going to be a different person. Once this happens, that's when I'm going to start living for what matters to me. And that's when I'm going to start dedicating my life to what matters to me. And that's when I'm going to get my life together. And that's when I'm going to try harder. But I would say that even if you cannot live a perfect life, it's better to devote as much of yourself as you can to your goals and what matters to you. Even if you look stupid, and even if it makes you sort of like a hypocrite, and even if you're struggling, and even if it doesn't make sense because it's you're fucking up in one aspect of your life, but you're trying to do good in another aspect of your life, I would say that just go for your goals no matter what in life. Because what matters to us in life, that's what's going to bring us fulfillment and happiness and joy and positive self-esteem and self-worth is following what matters to us in life. Always. That's always going to bring you joy in life. So I want to thank everyone for listening to my video. And I want to wish all of you guys positivity and lots of love and lots of light. And I hope this video was able to help someone. Because our thoughts are powerful and our life has a lot of potential, Maybe you're in a dark place right now. And maybe you've been in a dark place for a really long time. And maybe your life is not going anywhere. And maybe a lot of bad things have happened to you. And maybe you've wasted a tremendous amount of time in life. And I can honestly say that that has been my life as well. Right? And a lot of that was stuff that was unrelated to me, not my fault. And a lot of that stuff was my fault because of my own ignorance and various things. But it's never too late to live a good life, and it's never too late to be happy. And it's never too late to feel really, really incredible and have a really, really amazing life. Maybe your life isn't great right now, and it hasn't been great for a long time, and bad things have happened to you, and you've wasted a lot of time with your life. But that doesn't mean that you cannot have a great life. And that doesn't mean that you cannot turn things around. And it doesn't mean that you have to let that negative parts of your life prevent you from having a great future. Yeah. And, it's like there's so much to say about darkness and desire and light and transformation and positivity. And it's like, I think a lot of the reason why people suffer in life is because they're not they're not living in alignment with like their true self. And that's why their life sucks. And that's why they're not happy, is because they haven't discovered who they truly are yet. And so it's basically impossible for them to really pursue that, right? And a big part of that is because we don't live in a peaceful and loving and supportive world where you can be who you want to be without judgment. And you can do what you like to do without judgment. And you can just be however the fuck you want to be. And people are, you're going to have a supportive friend group, or you're going to have a loving family that supports you, or you have a society that doesn't treat you like shit, and like you all of a sudden you lose your whole social world crumbles just because you're so different, right? And so that fucks up a lot of people as well, right? That sort of environment, it makes people super scared to be themselves, because as soon as you start doing things that everyone else is not doing, well, it's like you're either going to be praised or looked down upon. One of the two. If you're doing things that people view as virtuous, then you'll be praised as virtuous. But if you're doing things that people view as like, wow, that's terrible, even if you're not being terrible, but that's just the way that society views that thing, then you're going to feel like shit, and you're going to reject your own self. You're going to develop internalized phobias about your own self because society told you that was bad, and society told you that was wrong, or society told you that was stupid. You had certain dreams and goals and aspirations, and everyone said that's dumb, and everyone ridiculed you, or you just afraid of being ridiculed. Everyone put you down. And so people develop these internalized phobias and hatreds towards their own self, right? And that creates a cycle where people are miserable and unhappy. And, that's just a part of the journey, and it does take time. But I think it's a lot simpler than people try to make it to be. Because the truth is, like, from an early age, like, when we hit puberty and we start developing, of course, we're naturally going to know who we are. We're naturally going to know what we like. We are naturally going to know what we're all about. It's like, obviously, you're going to know yourself to a large degree, right? Even from an early age, you're going to know the things that you like and the things that you enjoy and what sort of person you are, right? But it could be society is putting you down. Everyone talks bad about the things that you're doing or the things that you're into, or you just feel out of place pursuing those things. And so you don't do it. And so you create sort of a barrier in your own mind about preventing you from seeing the truth of who you are. And it could be that simple, it's like you don't have the support. People don't support who you are and your goals and your dreams, right? And so people sort of forget about their dreams, and they sort of neglect who they are, right? So my point is that, like, and this ties into sexual energy as well. because it's like, well, what do you truly desire in life? I mean, it takes time to dissolve the barriers that you have imprisoned yourself in, where you're not able to just embrace yourself for who you are and practice compassion towards yourself and love towards yourself. But a day will come when you can do that, right? So I encourage you to pursue your passions in life and pursue what makes you happy and pursue what is meaningful to you and pursue what makes you fulfilled. And that itself is going to be a journey for you of finding these things and embracing who you are, right? But once you do, once you're finally in alignment with your true self, everything's going to click for you. Everything's going to start going well. You're going to start waking up. You're going to start aligning your life with these core virtues that you hold in your heart, these core principles, and you're going to find someone special to help you, and things are going to start lining up for you, because it's like, you know, every man and every woman is a star. Every soul is a star, you know, and every star has its own divine orbit, you could say, or its true path. And so, you know, if you're way off to the distance, and you're not in alignment with your soul, you know, you're not in alignment with your true path. Like every star has its own orbit, right? Every sun has an orbit, and every soul has its own path. Every soul has its own qualities that make it unique, right? And so when we discover that, and when we move into harmony with that and embrace that fully, then a lot of magical and beautiful things start happening. Things will start lining up. The universe will help you, and things will start getting much better for you. But, you know, it's really about letting go of your fear of being yourself. People are afraid to be themselves. And so they have all of these desires that they reject, because their desires, you know, the things that you like and the things that you're interested in, you might have internalized phobias against them. And so that could prevent you from pursuing them. But once you embrace your true self and you just accept yourself for who the fuck you want to be, and you say, you know what? I can't live my life anymore not being who I want to be and not doing what I want to do. And I just have to go for it. It's now or never. And once you have the courage to do that, regardless of what, you know, like, you do your best you can, but like once you do that, then everything's going to start falling into place for you, because then you're going to be in alignment with your true self. And that's going to put you in alignment with divinity, because we are all part of the divine tapestry of the world, of existence. And so if you can move into harmony with your soul, then that's going to align the forces of divinity to push you in the right direction, rather than creating a negative dissonance where you are unable to be happy and progress spiritually in life. And it's also takes time to just simply discover what matters to us and discover what is meaningful to us in terms of creativity and creative outlets. And that's a part of, you know, a big part of our soul's path and what makes us happy, you know, being who we're supposed to be and doing what we're supposed to do, right? That's basically it. But once you can embrace yourself for who you truly are, then I think magical things are going to start lining up for you. And your life is going to be better than you ever thought it could be. Not only are you going to be happy, but you're going to be happier than you thought you could be. So I guess that's basically my message. My message is to not give up on yourself, and not give up on your life, and not give up on your dreams. It's like I said, I'm 33, and I've made so many mistakes, and I've wasted so much time. And I have, it took me so long until just recently that I started to feel happy and feel okay and feel normal and, start to feel super happy with life and, feel like, wow, I'm finally doing what I want to do with my life. And, that's where the authenticity component comes into play with channeling this energy, because sexual energy is the energy of life. It's the energy of divinity. It's the energy that's within you that powers your existence. So by being authentic, that is to say, knowing who you are and knowing what you like and living that life and being yourself, then you can channel your sexual energy into positive, creative outlets in life, rather than having that energy push inwards on yourself because you're trapped in a false life, right? And that's where the transformation component comes in, because, you can really transform your life into something positive and something happy and something bright and something that will help you in life, right? And so I think, because our energy is spiritual, then I think, developing a spiritual routine is also going to be crucial, such as anything that helps you to move into alignment with a greater awareness of the universe, and also channeling your sexual energy into things like meditation or yoga or anything that sort of pushes you to new heights of being yourself and creative awareness of the universe is going to be very helpful just with your life in general. And I think the final thing that I would say is that, I know a lot of people are addicted to pornography. And, I think it's important to understand why you're doing it and how that desire can fit into a greater whole of your life. Whole as in WHOLE, the whole existence of your life. Right? So, finding out why it is that you're drawn to that content in the first place, right? Because I don't think your desire for those things is wrong. But the thing is that for men specifically, men and women have different energy systems in regards to sexual energy. So for men, when they are ejaculating a lot, they lose a lot of energy, right? For a woman can have many orgasms and she doesn't really lose much energy. She's still vibrant, she's still beautiful and full of life and full of health, full of vitality, full of energy, right? Whereas for a man, they have different systems. Their bodies are just different, right? So for a guy, if he's jerking off to porn like every single day, then it's going to massively drain his sexual energy. And that sexual energy is his life force itself. Whereas a woman, she can do that multiple times a day, but the next day she's going to feel normal. You know, maybe kind of tired, but like not the same as a man. So it's like understanding your desires is going to be a part of understanding yourself, right? And then you need to sort of like understand, well, how does that fit into who I am as a person? Because you may think that your desires are sinful or wrong or not virtuous, right? You may be stuck in that sort of way of thinking that the things you're looking at is sinful and wrong. But your desires are your desires. And I would think that, you know, it's like, if you're watching those things, that tells you something about who you are as a person, right? Now, maybe it is just like, you know, it could just be an unhealthy habit, you know? Maybe you're just watching things and it's like, I don't know. I'm not here to tell you what your life is and what it's not, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I think a part of figuring out the problem of why you're doing PMO and like solving it is like understanding your desires behind what you're into and like what drives you to really do that and how that ties into you as a person, right? But if you're a man, then it's like basically, you know, you don't have a lot of sexual energy to waste, unfortunately, right? Because your body is just different than a woman. You store energy different than she does. It's just a different system, right? It's a different system entirely for men and women, for the male and female body. So, you know, I made a video on NoFap, and, you know, you can check that out. So I'm not gonna go into that too heavily because you can just watch that. But that's basically it as far as like sexual energy goes, is like, you know, if you're a guy, you don't have a lot of it to waste. You know, like you can have sex and have fun. And that's fine. I don't judge you for that at all or anything. But I'm just saying, like, you know, if you're jerking off like multiple times a day or even like multiple times a week, then it's like you're reducing the amount of sexual energy that you have. You're reducing your amount of spiritual creative power. And so, you know, take a broader, deeper look at your life and see how you can apply that power to better and creative means. Not that your desires are wrong, but just that, you know, jerking off to porn, if you're a guy, like, it's probably just wasting your energy. You know, I'm not saying that it can't be a positive experience, but I'm just saying, like, you know, that's something that you have to figure out for yourself. And, you know, because the thing is that, like, having that sexual energy is not just about sex, but it's about spiritual power as well, that divine power within yourself. And so it's like, making the most of it is going to help make the most of your life, right? And find happiness and peace and joy and wellness in your life. So my final message is to just not give up on your dreams, and that there's always hope for a better tomorrow, better future, better life. And it starts with, manifesting these core principles of sexual energy into higher creative outlets for yourself, where you can feel inspired and feel divine and feel empowered, but to realize that the essence of your life is your spiritual power, it's your spiritual energy, and to find a way to live your life that utilizes it, and find a way to move into harmony with your true self and your true life, so you can live a more empowered and healthy life and, help to make a better world.